Hey, are you totally out of the Revelations 6-inch figures? You have no interest in them? Because the reason why I ask is I just picked up a Skelegod for like $18 on Amazon. So I actually have a fun play plan. So I have a Skeletor is going to steal the sword. Regular Origin Skeletor is going to steal the sword and turn into Skelegod, and then the Sorceress is going to turn him. I have one of those minis that's like a 3-inch squat figure. The Sorceress is going to turn Skelegod tiny into like a dwarf. It's going to be so awesome.
I like that you've got a play plan. You got like,
Yeah.
I'm going to get all these figures so that when we play this next time, she's going to have the time of her life.
It's a lot more fun when I have like scripts and plots prepared, like the cartoon, as opposed to just like free for all.
Mine are free for all kids. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. I can participate, but I can't direct.
She likes when I have a story ready and she can hop in and play off the story that's going on, as opposed to when, if it's just up to her, she like runs out of patience or attention after like a minute or two, and then it's just like, eh.
Yeah. So they have all my Star Wars 3 3/4 that are open out in a box, along with an A-wing and Vader's ship and an Outrider, and those figures regularly play with their 3 3/4 princess figures, which is why I went and, well, we can talk about the rest of that later, but yeah, if I direct too much, one of them, the younger one especially, gets frustrated. She's like, no, that's not what they're gonna do.
Oh, that's like, because your youngest and my oldest are like almost exactly the same age. I think your youngest is May. Yeah.
May.
Yeah, and like then my daughter was born like a month and a half after yours. So they're basically the same age.
Yeah. I gotta get the helmet ready. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I have more toys in here. I found
is that
this guy?
That's cool.
You can see this A-wing, another
Yeah.
A-wing, Resistance A-wing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it's blue, not red.
Jedi ship.
Is that a Revenge of the Sith ship box?
I can't hear you. I don't have my headphones on.
Okay. Was that a Revenge of the Sith Plo Koon?
Yeah.
Ship?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I have Plo Koon in Clone Wars winter armor.
Oh, okay, yeah. I have Kit Fisto in similar armor. Yeah. That same line.
Which I might consider leaving in my shelf and getting another Plo Koon for them to play with. Because I don't think the winter armor ones are very easy to find. And I like when he has all his gear on. He looks
it's been a long time since I got that figure, so I don't typically like look at the prices of figures that I
don't really care about the price so
I'm
much
not looking
as
for.
the availability to get it again if I really want it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's shiny and heavy. God, that's heavy.
That looks nice. Very chromy.
It does look nice and chromy. I was shocked about this.
That Beskar shines.
Whew. I was worried it wouldn't be that shiny. That is nice.
It is.
I don't think that's gonna fit my head.
My head is like 10% too big for all of those helmets.
It looks tight in there. Let's see if I can loosen this up before I put it on. Fine. You got a haircut since I last saw you.
Yeah, I did. I got a haircut just before Comic-Con San Diego, or special edition. Yeah.
I figured. Get a haircut for Comic-Con, but not for the rest of us, huh?
I mean, if you would have gone to Comic-Con, I would have got it for you. I got it for me because I didn't want to be running around and have a sweaty head. I still run around especially because I got
give me the 3-minute review of Comic-Con Special Edition. I was uninterested.
WonderCon 10 years ago, or actually it was WonderCon size with a Long Beach Comic Con guest list. So you've got the scale of WonderCon, but as far as the tier of people showing up, it's kind of at a Long Beach Comic Con tier. They still had some great names, like Dustin Nguyen was there. I actually met Min Lei, the writer for the Green Lantern Legacy series, which was really good. Like that was actually probably one of my highlights for the show. I also worked a panel with Kevin Eastman and Tom Waltz and like the guys behind the current TMNT comic book series, as well as the Kevin Eastman's one of the original creators. So
yeah,
they still have good names, but you don't have like, as opposed to having like, oh, here's the 30 people there that you need to see because there's 150, but those 30 are the ones you want to see. It's like, oh, here are the 10 creators that you want to interact with, and there's still another 20 that like might not be in your field of reference if you're not like, oh, well, this is a webtoons artist, or this is a artist or writer for this series over here. So it just wasn't the same. Like they didn't bring in the same, and also like there's no vendors, so you don't have. I'm sorry, there's vendors, but you don't have the same publishers. You don't have IDW, you don't have Marvel, DC, Oni Press. It was like it was a lot more small press and a lot more vendors for comics and stuff. And Artist Alley was like very spacious, and like it's a lot of people like, oh, I wish they do this for Comic Con. It's like they're no, you're sardines. Like they're gonna this like people were like, oh, I have a full 8-foot table to myself.
Yeah.
I'm not splitting that. Yeah, exactly. And it was so that's a quick rundown.
Do you think Peter Eastman and Kevin Eastman are related? They don't look alike.
I don't know who Peter Eastman is, so I'm gonna say no.
The Dr. Seuss guy.
Oh,
Peter Eastman.
Yeah.
They don't look alike.
Yeah.
Well, I'm into that kind of vibe. I don't know that I have much shopping to do anymore these days.
Yeah. That's valid.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
In a minute.
Because that's part of the whole discussion of just like buying stuff individually versus trades. And then like, okay, well, I just wait for the trade, and then you can get it from your shop. You can get it from bookstores. You can get it from there. So it's like, I just realized we have Goliath soaring above us.
He's hanging above his head. He's got it tilted up so you can see it.
It's awesome.
Yep.
Where's yours?
That was somewhat coincidental.
Yeah. Nice. Just enjoy it.
It is nice that you can see him so well, though.
Yeah. I was gonna say this. We look cleaner now. Is there? Like
Over
I'm
here?
not sure if it's
Behind me.
I mean, no. Like the video looks clearer, and I'm not sure if that's because.
Oh, he spit on the camera earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks nice and clean, as well as the I don't know, just it looks the videos looks like a higher quality. I don't know why, but it does. I like it. I'm here for this.
I'm here for Carbon Scoring, where we're going to talk about toys, including a non-Star Wars space. He doesn't know. Was that the Gladiator reference? You're going to vote no against toys, or you're just going to individually vote against enforcing?
This was my double neutral.
Neutral.
2 thumbs up for Visions, 2 thumbs neutral for toys.
He's
where do
There's been some good and some bad.
Where do your thumbs go for Boba Fett? We're gonna have a Mandalorian related.
It depends. Are we talking about the Book of Boba? Because like I'm pretty excited for Book of Boba.
Yeah. What about under the helmet?
Yeah, but that's related, right?
Do you have your soundboard up?
What?
So that because when you say Boba Fett, you got to be like Boba Fett.
No, here I gotta add that to the soundboard list. My soundboard has languished. I clicked the wrong button. That's gonna come back to haunt us later. Boba soundboard. I tried turning off noises on my computer. It just does not work. So we'll see what noise that makes when that application decides to open.
Discodo.
Yeah. Okay, Boba soundboard. It's on there. So every time somebody says Boba Fett, it'll happen. And it's going to get really annoying, and then we'll stop doing it after one episode, and I'll have spent 20 minutes putting on the soundboard for a 9-minute gag, and it'll be worth it. I think it'll be worth it. That's why I'm going to smile. Kit, how are you, buddy?
I am doing pretty well. How are you guys? I'm
good. I'm Andy. I'm good because people are listening. You can see we see each other on the camera, and it's getting.
I'm looking forward to talking about some Star Wars.
I'm looking forward to Life Month or whatever it is now, right? In the Star Wars universe, this is life season.
Life
Yeah,
Day.
it's a season of Life Day, so
It's the
it's
season of Life Day. Do you think that because they call it Life Day? No, because Christmas Day is still a season, right? So maybe Life
Yeah.
Day is a season.
Yeah.
I don't mean to exclude other holidays, but most other holidays are seasonal in terms of like Hanukkah has a season all to itself. So
But we basically had nothing between Halloween and Thanksgiving, so it fits perfectly in there.
true.
it's
Good
just
point.
the build up. It's like because you have like autumn is kind of like autumn's like broken up between, at least for me, maybe mentally. Autumn is like, here's, you got some Halloween time and you've got Thanksgiving, but then once it gets to Christmas time, that's winter, and that's at least in my head. I'm like, nope, it's winter time now. We're going into kicking it into overdrive.
I feel this year especially I come to enjoy this time of year quite a bit, and also dread this kind of time of year quite a bit, because and my kids are getting 3 weeks off of school.
Oh, I think my kid only gets 2.
It's an
After a
astronomical
pandemic,
amount.
is that still seems like after you're like, oh, they're locked in with you for the next bit of whenever. Like, is 3 weeks? You're like, oh, so there's an end date. I have an end date. 3
Yeah,
weeks,
well,
fine.
The problem isn't that. The problem is that post-pandemic, people are taking better care of themselves, which is a good thing. But that also means things like the dance studio and the gymnastics place and the swim place are all like, you know what? We're taking time for our families too. And then I say, well, what am I supposed to do with these kids?
Grandma, grandpa, other grandma, other grandpa.
Yeah, I know.
Don't you want to see your grandkids?
Well, thankfully, at least a week and a half that is filled up with family, etc. Ken, we didn't hear, but I assume you're doing well as well, because I see smiles and happiness. And
Things are
Comic-Con.
Yeah, things are going there. It's just the daily grind. It's the season was. It's troubling. I mean, we're going to talk about toys, but it's like you see all the sales, and I'm just like, oh no, I can't. Oh no, it's just not gonna. Okay, well, I guess we're just gonna.
You know, this was the exact right time of year to practice the pullback of the.
Yeah.
That looks good. Oh, don't click it. Okay, decide in a minute. Is it sold out? No, it's still not sold out. Do I still want it? No, I want it less now that it's not sold out. You know, that moment hit me multiple times. I did buy yes, we're going to do we want to start with toys since it's the season of giving, or do we want to start with shows?
Actually, you know what? I've got one thing on that note of purchases and whatnot that'll kind of it'll go into other stuff, but let me go ahead and grab that off camera and bring it back real quick.
I've got some stuff too to show here. We're going to try live, but he walked away. I don't know if his headphones are wireless. You've got your guardrail up there.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah,
It's
but
beautiful.
that's not Star Wars related. He is very beautiful. So I picked up Lando Calrissian.
Dude, you did it on the Amazon sale. Yes, I bought the same one.
With the cloth cape that is quite nice.
It's gorgeous.
This is the last figure I was waiting for my Bespin Carbon Freeze diorama.
Oh, that's right, because you got the chambers.
So I was pretty happy about that. And then
that's so funny.
Return of the Jedi stuff, I got Tebow, who's my favorite Ewok. He's the light gray and dark gray striped one.
Yeah.
And I got Andor Luke.
Those are vintage.
Yeah, these are the vintage collection ones. So.
See?
Yep.
I am going to let the kids play with Lando. And so Lando's cape and all these figures is stuff.
Accessories.
That's a Han Solo. There's a Hoth Leia.
From Solo.
Yes, this is the young Solo, which I thought was still a good looking figure. These are Power of the Force ones. So look how short she is compared to herself from no, this is Force Link, and here's Power of the Force.
Oh,
you
wow.
See the height difference.
Yeah. She's an Amazon by comparison.
She's buff in this. She's buff. Look at that.
Yeah.
She could kill somebody. She did.
The Power of the Force figures were ripped.
Yeah,
like if you get a Power of the Force Tatooine Luke, he's got like his shirt's pulled up and he looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger under there.
It's good. It's a good figure. I like it. I also grabbed. So I unboxed a lot of stuff that I had kept in boxes. Like I have this Resistance A-wing that I'm going to give to the kids to play with,
Nice.
and
Very
came
cool.
with a little pilot. A while ago, Hasbro eBay's account had a Force Link sale
Mm-hmm.
that I absconded with some figures from, and I also grabbed that Lando and an IG-11 on sale during the Amazon toy sale, because why not? And those will all get opened and given to the kids. Anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off there, my friend. You went to get a huge box that you've been holding on to this entire
So this
time.
is well, it's one of those things where it's like we talk about like what's going on, and it's like because you'd mentioned like, oh, it's sold out, so I'm not too worried about it. Like, okay, maybe
Yeah.
I'll think about it again.
Yeah.
This is what FOMO gets you.
Uh-oh.
A Kickstarter of the Batman animated series game that has like the base game, the Kickstarter up exclusives, and then 2 expansions.
And they're all still in plastic.
That's all. Well, it showed up this week, so
okay.
I'll take that little bit. But on that note, one of the reasons that got me into this one is that it's a compatible system with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game.
Oh, that you already had FOMO about and bought also.
That's sitting in storage, and it's been opened up because I looked at the miniatures because they're cool.
Yeah.
But the game is unplayed because, as is any game nowadays, you have to take an hour and a half to learn the rules
and then play for 3 hours. So you have to have 5 hours and people that want to sit around for 5 hours.
And as modern as what is it, elder millennials that we are, we don't have the time.
I'm a millennial elder.
Yeah. So it's like that's one of the things that arrived for me, that when you mentioned the FOMO of how it gets you, I'm like, I backed like the first Ninja Turtles game, and then I got the second one. I'm like, oh well, okay, cool, I'm good. And they're like, hey, this is the Batman game, and it's compatible with that one. I'm like,
USOs.
Yeah,
you got me. Speaking of elder millennials, Kit, there's gray hairs creeping in here. I don't know if you can.
Yeah. Sorry.
Get the Mr. Fantastic going.
Ken dyes his hair, so he'll never know the pain of the Mr. Fantastic. That's
I've been rocking the Mr. Fantastic gray on the sides look since high school. So
yeah, I remember in college I was like, that guy's distinguished. He's got it peppered in there
knows
already.
What's going on?
I got this so early. I really thought I would be like Steve Martin by the time I was 30, and just because I really was like 16 and I was starting to get gray hairs. So
yeah. Toys
pretty much slowed down.
Toys is a complicated. I sent you guys a bunch of pictures, so you can look at your phones for those. But I'll try and remember not to not post them on Instagram or whatever, like we never do for this podcast, because I'm
at We Were Gamers on Instagram and Twitter.
On Instagram. Yeah, I'm really good at that. I made some decisions about toys, and I know you guys have made some decisions about toys, and we have a toy to talk about that I don't know anything about, but it sounds like some drama, which is why you gave some sideways thumbs.
A lot of drama.
I assume. Motu, which we're not going to talk about today, so people don't have to worry about it. Masters of the Universe, that is, had the Revelation Part 2 come out, and Revelation toy line to me was a revelation in how fancy figures could look. They look amazing, and I was taken in by them, and I bought the entire first wave, including the Faker, because that Battle Cat was as big as my head. And I thought, these are amazing. And then I watched my kids playing with all my other 3/4 inch Star Wars figures and integrating those toys into their
daily
princesses.
Play.
Yeah, their daily play toys, like their princesses and other things like that. I have 2 girls, so it's fun. And the boys end up married and the girls end up married, and it's all crazy and fun and whatever. And Elsa flies around the Outrider. I have to feel good about that on the inside a little bit.
Yeah. She's like, no, it's no A-wing for me. I'm not gonna do some kind of Jedi Starfighter. It's the Outrider or bust.
The Outrider is the coolest currently of the toys that I have given them that are available, because the Outrider transforms, right? And so it can crash and do all sorts of fun stuff, and it has more landing gear than all the other toys. We'll see once they see Plo Koon's Jedi Starfighter, if they're still into the Outrider. I don't know. I think I'm going to let them play with that one. As Kit and I were talking about before, I think I'm going to buy an extra Plo Koon because my other one is sitting. Which way does my finger go? Right
I know, so
there.
oh, okay, I see him now.
See my 2 lightsabers? That's Luke's
Mm-hmm.
right there. And that's the one I
Mhm.
built at Disney. And then Plo Koon's standing in the middle of both of them in his winter armor. And
Did we ever talk about? Oh, sorry.
Did we not talk about?
I don't know if we talked about it on air about your
Okay.
creation. I know we talked about it, but I don't know. But I'm sorry. Go on.
We could talk about it another time because I know we got visions to talk about today and other stuff. Well, I'll write it down. It'll be on the list. We'll pull it out of the case and I'll take pictures of it and we can do that. Another.
And we can not post them on at
we'll
We Were
not
Gamers
post
on
them
Instagram.
on at We Were Gamers, the most exclusive photo account on the internet where they don't post photos. You just have to imagine them.
It's the theater of the mind.
That Plo Koon is hard to get. Not hard in terms of price, but mostly in if he is complete with all of his parts and shows up, right? Like when he shows up, he's whatever, $25 or something, which is not an astronomical amount for one figure if you're not going to do it all the time. But getting all his little face mat anyway. So because I take away all the parts and I put them in this little case. It's got Ray on the top. It was for a watch from Nixon, but all the accessories are in this. You can hear it rattle.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's a good little thing. I might give them a different Plo Koon to play with, is what I'm saying. Anyway, back to the point of the story. Motu, due to Kit's suggestion that my children would like the original, I showed them the Filmation She-Ra movie, and after which they wanted to watch He-Man. And we have been watching it quite a bit, and they love it a lot.
My daughter as well.
They love it a lot.
Both He-Man and She-Ra.
My younger one, which is the same as age as yours, your older one, is scared of stuff, including movies that she's already seen. So like Ariel, she doesn't like Ursula anymore. She's seen that movie like 15 times. She thinks Skeletor is hilarious.
He is. She's right.
She is right. And so I made the decision that I'm giving up on the Revelations line entirely. And I bought the Super 7 reaction figures that you both told me about on this podcast. I bought a lot of them. There is a grip of them in the back. I'm a little sad that I didn't buy Hordak because he was more expensive than all the others. And Scareglow was also more expensive than all the others by a factor of 5. Most of them cost me about $6, and those two were $30 for some insane reason. I don't know why, because you can get a She-Ra in that line, even though she's not on He-Man, and a bunch of She-Ra Horde bad guys like Mantenna and Grizzlor, and all those were normal prices, but Hordak was crazy expensive. I don't know why. But the cool part about all that is the lore that they now know, which is like He-Man and Skeletor. We'll talk about this when we talk about Revelations at some point. Are related to Hordak, and like all that is cool. And so wanting them to integrate stuff into their play, the Revelations line doesn't fit. It might fit Barbie, maybe. Barbie's 11 inches. How tall is Revelation line?
6 or 7.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
They're not.
Barbie's way taller.
Barbie's way taller. So they didn't fit, right? They've got American Girl sized figures. They've got Barbie sized figures.
Oh, those are even bigger. Those are like a foot and a half.
Massive.
Aren't they?
We built a huge dollhouse for it. It's 6.5 feet tall.
Jeebus.
Yeah, it's 3 stories. It's 6.5 feet tall. They have to use a ladder to get to the attic. It's kind of funny. Didn't fit, so I'm giving up on that one. And I got them all these Revelations Super 7, not Revelation, sorry, Reaction Super 7 3 3/4, and they're all open, and they're all just gonna go to them to play with, and that's gonna be the end of that. And that was part 1 of my toy revelations.
One thing that's worth mentioning there too is that you got the blind box ones. You did the Is that so? It wasn't just like you bought a bunch of the carded ones, and which have their own appeal as well. But these, besides getting just kind of a standard He-Man, you also got a translucent He-Man.
Yeah, they're all
or
translucent.
Is he a gold one?
Yeah. Well, not all of them are translucent. Like half are translucent and half are golden and glow in the. There's one glow in the dark in each set. It was weird because the boxes gave out of 12 things for how rare the things were, but since I got a whole box for a very stable reasonable price, that meant that everyone was in there. I just had to open them in the right order to find them if I wanted to, and not open the others. I eventually decided on opening all of them, so that I could just get rid of the extras easily instead of trying to sell off blind boxes, which nobody wants.
Yeah.
Especially if people know how that works, because then they could assume that I'm cheating them out of something.
Yeah.
So I figure I would just open them all, and I'll just give off or do something with the extras. I don't know. They don't need to have all those around, but yeah, some of those blind one and whatevers look pretty good.
Yeah.
It's like, oh dang, this Trapjaw looks really, really cool as a glow-in-the-dark gold figure instead of his normal. Although his normal coloring in those Super 7 figures in the pictures is really good. I like. They don't look like He-Man toys. You know, like the He-Man toys that you guys both have are the bulkier style. I was worried they wouldn't look like the animation that much, but having watched some of it, it actually doesn't. It's not that far off. They're still proportioned larger on the top. And the colors are exactly right. So I don't mind it.
Yeah. The reaction figures are a great line each series finds a way to bring the aesthetics of a Kenner action figure along into whatever medium you're doing. Like even the Power Rangers, which are, those worked out really well for them because it's like, oh, it's the same mold.
Yeah.
We just like swap out the heads and just like boom, 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 boom. There's all your figures. The reaction line, aside from, of course, like the Transformers are like, they're very like specific, but they still have, because there was the Action Masters line of Transformers, they still have a certain aesthetic that fits in that scale. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So my question to both of you would be, now that I've kind of committed to 3 3/4 figures for my kids to play with, what other ones should I keep an eye out for?
If they're
all the reaction
for the
ones.
kids specifically,
for your kids or just for you, because like there's like Terminator and Aliens stuff that I have that you probably don't want to give to your kids yet.
Maybe not. I'm not even
oddly enough,
Xenomorphs.
I got one because it was in a loot crate, so I have one of the Xenomorphs on the carded reaction figure in a box in storage because of course I kept it because I'm like, I don't know what to do with this, and I'm not in love with Aliens. Like I like the movies enough, but it's just like it's one of like you can only spend so much time on each fandom you're into.
The other 3 3/4 that caught my eye recently is the Marvel Legends Retro line.
Yes.
It caught my eye because I saw it. I was walking down an aisle in Target after I got my shot, and I had to stay there for 15 minutes, and they had a Cyclops, like an uncanny Cyclops, just sitting. I was like, "What is this? Yoink! Give me that!"
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah, Cyclops is probably my favorite Marvel character. Maybe that shifts around every once in a while, but like aesthetically, I really like his outfit for some reason. Even though
I like that.
I
like that line. I have Spider-Man and both the gray and green Hulk and Iceman, and on Iceman because I like the X-Men, and on the off chance that they for some reason decide that they should make me happy and make a Firestar so that I can have Spider-Man and his amazing friends, then I can get that and I'll have all three.
If the line goes strong, they would, right?
If they Firestar's an odd character because she's not an A-lister, she's not even a B-lister, just kind of she strikes the chord with a certain generation.
I don't know. I saw a U.S.
Friends.
agent one there.
But that's a repaint of Captain America, so that's an easy one.
Just a repaint, yeah.
So
and he was just in.
That's right. He was also in that show.
In Falcon and Winter Soldier. So
there's a reaction Knight Rider. Hasselhoff.
Yeah, so you can get Michael Knight. Yep.
Yeah.
And even when they redid the new Spider-Man and his amazing friends, they're using Miles and Spider-Gwen. So Firestars
Wait.
had an opportunity to appear there.
There's a
but
Spider-Gwen in that line?
not in
No,
the line we're talking about, but I was saying they brought the show title back of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Oh, okay.
And in that they placed those two characters, which is good. I'm glad to have both of them, but it's not the Fireman and Ice Star. Good heavens. It's not the Firestar and Iceman that we as elder millennials know and love.
They have a King Starscream and a Voltron.
Yes. Yeah.
They have Ninja Turtles. Reaction does.
Yeah.
So if you want 3 3/4-inch Ninja Turtles, they have a lot of those.
I do.
That your
want
kids,
those.
my daughter loves Ninja Turtles stuff. So
I
I don't know if your kids like that or not. but
would. It's another opportunity to introduce them to something. Oh my gosh, they have an Iron Giant.
They have a lot. You have now opened Pandora's box, which was kind of what I was trying to warn you about last pod. Is that reaction figures are great, but they're kind of like Funko, and there's a ton of everything, and once you like start down that path, you can end up with a lot of reaction figures in your house.
They have reaction Star Trek figures too.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's almost it's
here's
it's funny because just recently I was looking at because I think we were talking about it, the Playmates toys. I don't know why the Playmates Star Trek kind of swung back into my mind.
I don't like the aesthetic of any of and the mega constructs.
Yeah,
Those are weird to me.
But they're of a certain time frame in my head. So like at the same time they were producing Turtles, they were doing those. So there was also those Turtles who were the Starfleet Turtles. So you had Leonardo and Command Red.
What?
Did you know?
I didn't see this.
Oh man.
Yeah, Playmates had both licenses simultaneously. So.
Oh my god! All right,
and the figures were like, all of the Playmates figures from that era were all the same scale because like Dick Tracy, they made Dick Tracy, and the Dick Tracy figures were that same sort of scale as the Ninja Turtle scale. So it was like Star Trek and Ninja Turtles and Dick Tracy and pretty much everything Playmates made in the early to mid 90s was that like, I don't know, what is that, 5-inch scale, whatever the Ninja Turtle scale is.
I thought it was a little shorter, but oh my god.
If you take a look at so Mikey, is it Michelangelo? Yeah, it's Michelangelo as a red shirt.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah,
this is great.
I don't know why Raph is a science officer, but okay, like.
Well, there's all sorts of science officers out there.
Also, the two, like this is also the original series costumes. I think there's also next gen costumes too. So like they did a pretty good job. I'm not 100% about the next gen stuff, but they're out there.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a fair amount of. So those kind of popped into my head, and I'm like, do I want some next gen toys? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I can't bring another fandom. Like not that I'm not a fan, but just you go through seasons. At least for me, like my friend Jason Bischoff said, like, oh, you go through seasons of toys. I'm like, that makes total sense. Like there's seasons where I'm like, oh, for this month I'm really into Lego, and I really want to get this Lego set and build it and do this. Whereas like, in 2 months, I'm like, oh, I need a proton pack because Ghostbusters is out and it's the best thing I've seen and made me cry. Or as the seasons hit, as things strike, you're like, well, I need that now.
Seasons of toys. I like that. I think there's also seasons of your mental capacity for toys.
Yeah.
So
did you, sorry.
No.
I was just gonna say for the proton pack. So did you do the Haslab proton pack?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's too, for the quality that we get. If it's comparable to the lightsabers and some of the other props that Hasbro's done, I think it's worth it because if you look into building a proton pack and doing it up right, sounds, lights, all the proper like cables and everything done right, you could be looking at about $1,000. Whereas this would be,
it looks good.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like for everything that comes with it, you do have to get the Neutrino wand separate, but they've made that viable. And actually, this way you kind of you can delay that cost a bit and be like, okay, I'll pick that up later and pre-order it now, and it'll come out later on. So, but that, that speaking of the Haslab, are we ready to get into discussions? Haslab, or are we going to hold off because it looks like Andy's got.
Oh,
Yeah.
I made the mistake of opening up a different window to remind myself later to look through BBTS for reaction stuff, and they have the NECA Ultimate RoboCop. Shout out to Tangential Giants. The poor Kareem. They have the battle damage RoboCop here, and it's got the little screen and everything.
And it comes with.
And,
Did you see the new one that comes with a chair too?
Yeah, he sits in the chair with the screen, and yeah, wow. I was thinking back to when I had the RoboCop and you squeezed it, and you said, "Drop it, drugs are trouble," you know.
Yeah.
And he looked like the same scale. Yeah, I got a little distracted by that. Sorry.
No, it's reasonable. It's
well,
good stuff.
Before we get into Haslab and the negative, do we have any more positive we want to talk about on Twitter? Because I have something I promised to do here in my lap last time, and we forgot because we ran out of time. I don't know if you guys want to do it or not.
That won't take long, so we'll come back to Haslab. Why don't you do that?
I gotta adjust my screen capture here and pin myself to the top. Oh no, dude, yeah, don't do that. Go back to the. Now what did I do?
Do you have some dramatic music?
I don't. I could
with tension.
If I overlay music onto this, then we'll get a copyright strike, and then we'll, on YouTube.
You've gotten copyright strikes on the podcast?
No, I'm saying if you overlay music, you end up with a copyright strike.
Oh, all right.
You know,
in audio form, like you're not. This isn't going up on.
No. I guess not
YouTube.
on the podcast. Oh no, I do put them on YouTube. I put all the podcasts on YouTube.
Oh,
yeah,
that I was unaware of.
YouTube.com/. We don't have a URL yet because you have to have a certain amount of subscribers for them to let you have a URL, which is absolutely ridiculous. Because how do you get more subscribers? If you can't tell them to go to youtube.com/WeWereGamers, you have to tell them to go to youtube.com and put We Were Gamers all one word in there, so you can watch the cool audio visualizer bounce up and down. And it has to be all one word, because if you put it in as multiple words, it takes you to We Are Gamers. And so now that people know, they can go steal our... I'm just rambling now, my frustration at a website. I guess they do it so people can't go out and steal every URL possible, but it is frustrating.
And just camp on them. Yeah, I guess I get that, but
I get why they do it, but it's also somewhat frustrating. I have something here that I promised to do last time. I feel like I need to wash my hands because of how shiny it is.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's very pretty. It looks way... It looks way better than the one that I have up behind on the... Oh, you can't see it. I don't... Hold on, how do I have that?
That Beskar is shiny.
You see the boba in the background there on top of the thing?
Yeah.
That's like an old school sharper image or whatever. It's like empty on the inside. This is the full shebang with the
Hasbro Black Series prop line.
One. Yeah. I'm going to try and see if it fits my head right now. Does that sound like a fun project?
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't fit my head, I don't know if I'll keep it. So I got to take my headphones off today.
I mean, that this could definitely help for your next Halloween. If you grab one of the kids, make them...
It fits my head.
Child.
Like okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny. It's so shiny. I can see the reflection in the tee.
Yeah. I was gonna say that one looks nice enough that I might even though my enormous head wouldn't fit in there, I might even just keep and display one of those just because it looks so nice.
I'm keeping that. Yeah, that's happening. Okay, I gotta hold on. Let me reset my screen here now that I don't need to capture everything anymore, because I'm gonna put that in the. That'll go in for the people that care. That'll be on the YouTube version of the podcast.
Of the pod.
Yeah. How do I undo? Oh, there you guys are. I like putting it at the top of the screen. So, that actually fits really well. I have to tighten it. There's a harness inside to hold it on your head so it doesn't do it around. I opened it all the way up so that it would fit, or hoping that it would fit. And so I got to tighten it maybe one notch, maybe two notches. I have the other one, the Boba Fett re-armored one from Mandalorian, on order with Amazon.
Oh, okay.
So I'll keep my order on that one too, because that looks and feels really good.
Are you replacing your original Boba Fett with that? Is that gonna become a kid's toy? Like they're gonna run around the house with the old one?
Good question. Yeah, that's a good. I don't really need the old one. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Up in person, the from far away, the old one looks good, but up in person, you can see, like in this one, the face mask, you could see it, and it didn't have like it looked very nice and tight and clean and hard and thick. The other one, you can see that it's just a thin sheet of plastic, and it's like warped a little bit.
Wavy, yeah.
Yeah, it's wavy. So it's up close. It's not very nice in your hands, other than the fun of putting it on and just running around with it on if you want to. But
I mean, that's where
I like that helmet.
I mean,
I didn't think I would like it as much when it was in the box, but now that it's not in the box, I like it quite a bit.
Well, that's the thing is
with that chrome.
It's very shiny. Yeah, that's cool.
We're in a time of premium toys, and so it's like they are acknowledging that collectors are like, oh no, we're willing to shell out, $100 range and get a helmet that looks screen accurate and has that chrome finish to it, as opposed to essentially a bucket's worth of plastic with a rangefinder on it that you're like, it's good enough for the shelf and I like it and I appreciate it. But now you see the new ones and you're like, that's like they just took it off the movie set and set it on my shelf, and I love that. And we go from like kids prop toys like the identity disc here for Flynn, and they're starting to do the lightsabers, and also they're putting them in retail that you can find them. You can find that helmet at a GameStop. You can find it at a Target sometimes.
It was on sale at GameStop this past. I pre-bought it because I wanted it and I didn't want it to.
Oh yeah, that's almost strong.
And now I feel vindicated for having purchased it. It's nice. I was worried about it not being nice before I opened it right before the podcast here, but it's in person. It's quite nice. I think you're right that it's the age of premium things, and I think there are people out there that buy way too much premium things. But if you're able to kind of keep your metal, as it were, and limit your purchases, displaying premium things is probably the way to go. I think that I'm kind of landing on finding my path through that versus stocking up on what I discovered was 3 boxes about the size of my desk worth of Black Series and Vintage Series toys over the last couple of years as I started to get back into the toy thing. So stay tuned for a more workable theory of how I'm going to deal with it.
Well, that's the thing about premium too, is that you have to manage that budget.
Yeah. Yeah, you're forced to, right? You can't buy $200 helmets every month.
Right. But and on that note too, though, the toy companies should acknowledge that they're releasing things to people with finite budgets. So when companies like say Hasbro decide to release
what a transition. What a pro.
three Haslabs / Kickstarters all at the end of the year, and from an outsider's point of view, it feels like they are just trying to pad the bank account at the end of the year to get all 3 of these done and then go into 2022 with X amount of funds, and they don't have to deliver a product until 2023. And so
2023
as yeah,
so that's they're not even ready to go into production, these products.
No, and that's something we're going to jump on in a second. So right now there are currently 3 Haslabs up from Hasbro, 3 Kickstarters for those who don't know what a Haslab is. There is a Sky Striker from G.I. Joe with that is in the original O-ring 3 3/4 scale. Not the retro 3 3/4 scale. There's a whole nother thing there, but it's in the original scale, but definitely dialed up. Like they tweaked up the greebling. The details are on there great. It's got a landing crew. It's got an extra pilot. It's done up very well. They also have the aforementioned Proton Pack from Ghostbusters Afterlife, which has all the bells and whistles you need. If you hit certain tiers, it's going to include a stand. It's going to include some stickers. Some of the tiers aren't all gold, but we'll keep going with the discussion. Third being the Star Wars Black Series Rancor, which has been a reviled and just infuriating funding process for a lot of fans and for Hasbro too, because there's a lot to go into, like why it's currently, I guess currently it's picking up people because they've addressed some of the issues. But one of their last presentations, they dropped like thousands of backers because backers were like, no, forget this, I'm not funding this too. And personally, I think one of their biggest problems is that Hasbro got greedy and tried to do 3 Haslabs at once. And they're like, oh, well, they're different fandoms. Like, no, a lot of your fans are crossover fans. Like, I'm buying Black Series and I'm also buying Marvel Legends. And that's just me. But there's other people who buy Black Series, Classified, Plasma, Marvel Legends. Like, you name off a Hasbro toy or even Ultimates for the Super 7 line. And there's all these different lines. So people want to have these things. And so, yes, there's going to be you're fighting for the same wallet. So you can't drop all these. And some of the stuff that they've said on the streams for the Rancor is like, oh, when they first showed it, they didn't even have a painted in on hand model because they were rushed. It's pretty clear that they rushed this thing out, that they had planned to do it later, but then higher ups at Hasbro decided, no, let's do it now because I'm sorry, Hasbro got greedy. They got greedy and they were like, let's just try and get everything we can right now, and we'll fulfill in 2 years. That'll be fine. We got that. So, but I'm jumping the gun a bit here because I'm already throwing in some of my own exposition, I guess, or my own thoughts. But Kit definitely had thoughts about it.
So, just for a really quick background on the Rancor, the Rancor is not 6 inches tall, but he is in the scale of the 6-inch Black Series figures. So he's much larger.
Questions is why Haslab, I assumed that meant he was going to be twice the height of or 3 times the height of a Black Series figure, so they could be the same play scale.
Yeah, and he is pricey. To get one, you have to pay $350.
So $100 less than the Haslab Mando ship.
I thought the Razor Crest was it 450? I thought it was 300 or 350 or 400.
Oh, well, okay.
At any rate,
so I don't know.
It's pretty pricey for what you get. And when they announced this, it met with sort of lukewarm. In terms of the number of people backing it, it was sort of lukewarm. It wasn't anywhere near. It didn't go as fast as the Razor Crest, but it was going at about the same rate as the Barge.
Okay, I have 2 questions.
But
one, is this a normal Kickstarter process where there's a finite date for these sorts of things, or are they just waiting until they get a certain amount of subscribers, or what?
As we record this on Saturday the 4th, there are 2 days and 6 hours left for the Rancor, and a day later on the Sky Striker.
Okay.
So then what most of the fans were saying was that they hoped that since they didn't announce this at the time, what they hoped were that the stretch goals would include the Rancor Keeper and Ula, who is the dancer who gets dropped down there.
Yeah, the Twi'lek.
Yeah, and as Hasbro went through with what the stretch goals were going to be, neither one of those showed up in there, and there were some really puzzling things. There's a Luke, which makes some sort of sense, but I mean they were going to release that anyway. It's either a repaint or they were going to just release that anyway. The stretch goals were really underwhelming for people, and the fans just sort of mutinied, and they lost a lot of backers after they announced the last stretch goals. And they have since gone back, like after 2 weeks of it being clear that there was no way that this was going to get funded without some added help. They went back and said, if this gets funded, not a stretch goal, but if this just gets funded, we're going to toss in an uncarded Malakili that we're working on right now because we have heard your complaints.
Yeah. I want to interject right there real quick. Actually, the Malakili, they said it won't be carded. That's right, another.
Did I say carded? I meant not carded.
You said uncarded.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of his points are definitely on. The stretch goals that they had included initially were some bones and skulls to adorn the floor around your Rancor, which are
Ooh.
not. There's no. It's just cold molds. Like they're not no articulation. Just like here's little props to set around your guy. It's like okay. And then one of them was a cardboard background that you could put behind it. I'm like, that's a stretch goal. Is just a cardboard diorama piece. That's puzzling.
Yeah.
They announced one of them was going to be a Gamorrean guard, but it's a retro card with the coin, so it's the original Powers of Force line. So it's like, okay, it's not even a new figure. It's just a repackaged figure that they're putting out. Then one of the stretch goals was the Salacious Crumb, which is also already available and out as well. And it'll be carded, but it's also just got released in a Disney Parks pack, which we can go into those two as well. And then the third thing was going to be a new molded Luke on the card too. But also they clearly stated, because legally they're like, oh, he will be released later on outside of this card. So none of the stretch goals were exclusive to this, except for the additional props and the carded background. So it's like you're not making any kind of like additional buy-in for us. You're not like, oh, well, I want to get these characters on a card. Like I want like most of the chat that was going was no Ula, no Mula. Like you're not getting my money unless you include these characters. They went back and said, oh, we'll add in Malakili, but of course he won't be carded, which I'm like, wait, so I still get the other stupid 3 that are carded, but he won't be? You're really cheaping out. And it's like a lot of this to me is part of the problem is that Hasbro is dealing with Star Wars as the license, and we as a collector, we do understand that there's a fair amount of control and also a fair amount of cost from the Star Wars license that they don't experience in other lines. That they've made clear, like the Marvel team said, and Marvel Legends, I mean, has said that they get a much easier path to work with. The Star Wars one's a very different one. So it's like the idea that they were bound by all this, and it's like I feel bad because the main figurehead behind the Haslab, at least the person who's doing the presentations, is getting a ton of hate. And I'm like, I would bet money he has no choice onto what's going on. It's handed down by Lucas and Haslab or Hasbro corporate. Like those guys, they decide things. And he's just like, here's our presentation, and they're like, you should be fired. He's like, I have no control over this. It's just handed down from on high, and it's like, I mean, that's where I'm like, I feel bad because that guy's getting all that hate, but the project's not worth it in a lot of ways that they haven't shown until just recently. And it's funny because I'm on like a Discord with some different collectors, and when all of these were announced, they're like, oh, okay, we're gonna get the Rancor. That Proton pack is too expensive. It's not gonna fund. By the way, Ghostbusters pack's already funded and going into stretch goals as we speak. The Sky Striker is still kind of on the fence from I'd have to take a look, but the Rancor is like the lowest one, and that's the thing that most people were like, I want to get that. So it's like it's interesting to see where people thought the fandom would go and just buy it because it's Star Wars. And it's like, no, you have to show us a value, especially because this isn't like I'm buying this product and I'm getting it within a month. This is its funding right now, and you're promising to give it to me in a year and a half. So I don't know. It's there's a lot going into it that they didn't anticipate, and I feel Hasbro corporate just thought, let's just throw these all 3 together. Like from a lot of the discussion, from a lot of the verbiage they use, because they didn't have certain products available or ready at the time, some of these were planned for later, and they were pushed up to get that end of year date.
It may be possible that they planned all of them for the end of the year. People do a lot of shopping right now, and that something along the line delayed the models and things like that with the Rancor, and they said, well, we can't delay the launch. That could also be. I mean, it's almost impossible to know, really.
It's impossible to know, but the verbiage they've used definitely leads me to believe that they moved up some of these ahead of time, because they had like, and also I do think like the Proton pack was probably pushed back too. Like they're like, well, we have to wait till the movie's out to kind of get the fervor behind it. So there's things that I think may have been delayed too, but I also think that I feel just from them doing all 3 at the same time feels very suspect to me. Like this is not the time. And also, yeah, people are buying a lot right now, but you're not buying anything. You're buying, it's the gift certificate mail away of like, hey, next year you're going to get some toys.
In spring of 2023, here's your coupon.
Hey,
Yeah, exactly.
I pre-ordered
it's worked for Star Wars
I
before.
pre-ordered that Steam computer that may never show up. Who knows? You know, people.
Yeah.
You know, I think I feel bad for everybody involved. I think it's not a great system. The Haslab system.
To go to Ken's point about the price, I keep looking at this Awe Striker or Sky Striker, the G.I. Joe Sky Striker, and I would love to have this, but for $230, that just seems like a $100. Like if this came out at retail, I would expect it to be like $99.99 because that's like if you buy Luke's X-wing or you buy maybe not with all the extra stuff thrown in, but like the actual Sky Striker itself. If you buy Luke's X-wing, if you buy the guy from Rogue One's X-wing that just came out, that's just
Poe Dameron.
No. From Rogue One.
Rogue One.
I forget what the guy's name is. The guy with the mustache. His blue X-wing.
Right? Blue leader.
Yeah. It's $100, and this comes out, and it does have it's got I think 5 or 6 figures and a whole bunch of accessories, but I don't know. I just feel like $230 is too much for this, and I wonder if they would have put this at say 150. Right now, the Sky Striker is sitting at about 2/3 of what they need just to get it funded. None of the stretch goals, just to get it funded. I wonder if they would have put this at 150 instead of a 230, if we wouldn't have, instead of 6,700 backers, if we wouldn't have 20,000 right now for this, because I don't know. It seems too much, and I don't know.
I'd say, and I think that's definitely a fair assessment too. I think that there is a certain amount of like, because there is a previous version. Did you see the one where they put the original Sky Striker side by side with this one? Yeah. And they showed like the scale up, and because it fits 2 pilots, and there's a fair amount more that goes into it. I do think I agree with you. Like if it say it was $199.99, and just visually, I think that may have helped it too. Just take off X amount, just because I don't know. I do see your point. I do see that it could easily be, if you compare it to just the X-wing, yes, there's not that much, but they are putting in a fair amount of additional content if you hit the stretch goals. But that's all part of the question. But still, you'll get like the landing crew and parachutes. Like that's all kind of cool to me.
Well, it looks. There's still time, but it looks like it looks an awful lot like the Rancor and the Sky Striker are not going to fund at this point. And which means like the stretch goals don't mean anything, and which really it has got to be a worst case scenario for Hasbro, because they get the negative press for these not funding. They while they didn't like tool up a factory for this, they obviously came up with prototypes. They spent time doing design. They spent time making the prototypes and everything, and all of that's going to be for absolutely nothing if they decide to not produce these outside of this. So I think having 2 of these, if 2 of these don't fund at the same time, I think that looks pretty bad, and I think that it's gonna to go to your point of them trying to pad their budget at the end of the year, I think it's going to look really bad if they have, and I have no idea what the R&D costs on these sorts of things are, but like if let's say that they put $100,000 worth of people and material into coming up with the Sky Striker, and then they have nothing to show for it. Instead of millions of dollars of backers' money, they have nothing. That's going to look pretty bad.
This can't be the first time these things have struggled to fund, right? I mean,
I believe that the only one that hasn't so far, they had to extend the Unicron, I think, twice to get it to fund, but the only one that I know of that didn't eventually fund was the stuffed animal of Cookie Monster. That was like $200 for a stuffy.
What are you doing?
And see, it was big, but
yeah. And it's funny too, because like that's what in my toy group people were like, oh yeah, the Proton Pack is going to be the Cookie Monster. He's not going to fund like that, or that's not going to fund. And like, I'm telling them like, if you're a Ghostbusters fan and you're looking for a Proton Pack, this is a good deal. If it's as good as their lightsabers, as their helmets, as everything else that Hasbro's been doing, if it's of that quality, this is a worthwhile buy. And just some of them were like, no, it's going to be another Cookie Monster, and I'm like, okay, it could, because there are, in my opinion, like there are 2 other good Haslabs out there, good in quotations, because I like the Rancor. I think it'd be a cool thing to have, just like I think the Sentinel and Galactus are cool things to have, but I don't have the space or money for those things. Whereas a Proton Pack, because it is something that is so dyed in like into my heart, that I'm like, no, the Proton Pack is something I really want. Whereas like if I get it, I could mount it on the wall if I want, or it's a Rancor that's this big, and like I don't have space for that. The same thing for the Sentinel. Like it's just funny to see where these are kind of going out. Whereas like right now, the Proton Pack is in the unlockable area. What's the term? It's hitting tiers. It's going through the unlockable tiers, whereas the other 2 are still just struggling to get hit. I can see this because they're also part of their orders also go through retailers like Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth. I'm curious if they are currently calculating in those buyers, because they will buy them and then resell them for a markup. I'm curious if those will go. It's to me, like you said, it's sad for everyone, because it's like they're gonna have to sit back and be like, oh, we tried to do all 3. I think the biggest struggle is it's all 3 at the same time for me. Like I can't see fans who are like, oh, I want all 3 of these. I can't do that. I can't do what? So 3, 4 for the Proton, actually 4 plus for the Proton, because of tax. I mean, they all have tax. And then $350 for the Rancor. You're talking about $1,000 just for toys that you won't get for 2 years.
I think it's likely that the Kickstarter model in general is not very good, and it has been that way for a while.
The Razor Crest for reference. So the Rancor right now is sitting at about 5,000 of the 9,000 backers that they need. The Razor Crest sold 28,000 of them like a year ago, right? That's when that cut
approximately.
Off. Yeah.
I guess I don't know the dates, and I think part of that too is that at the time it was a bit more novel. Like we just had the sail barge for the vintage collection that had sold through that, and that funded well. I think the Cookie Monster, as much as I don't think it was a good product, I think it was helpful to show them that not everything will fund. Like you can't just put anything you want up there and just it's going to work out for you. I think these are the bones of these projects have potential, but they need proper evaluation on them all. Except for the Proton Pack, I'm happy. I think that the tiers for the Proton Pack are kind of lame. Some of them are like, oh, you get some stickers and a little book, and I'm like, that's fine, but like it's not like the thing I want is the stand, and like that's up there, and I'm like, dang it. But there's more production cost for that, so I get it. But they all have their pluses and minuses, but there are more minuses, and also who has to get to the point of kit, like that's their goals are like they have 100 or 10,000 they want to hit. It's like, is that the right space that you need to have? But I don't know.
Can I pose a hypothetical to you?
No, we're not. This is Tangential Giants. This is Carpet Scoring.
It's not tangential. It's exactly related.
That's all good.
What if they stopped doing this model and they only went to retailers like GameStop or BBTS or somebody else, and they said, we're going to make 5,000 Proton Packs. How many people are backing it right now?
12,000.
Okay, so we're going to make
almost 13.
Okay, we're going to make 8,000 Proton Packs. What was the price for it? Sorry, $250 you said? 350?
400.
Oh, 400. I must be confusing the Striker. You said was 200.
Yeah, the Striker's 230.
Okay. So, $400. So, we're going to make it $500. We're going to make 800 of them. You can buy them at $450 and you can sell them for whatever markup you want. And they remove the entire model. They are now financially secure in making the item, but they can't possibly make enough of them. And you'll have to buy it. What version of this do you want? Because if they do this way and people are upset about the Rancor, if they had just made the Rancor with whatever was in it and they put out for the price that they put it out for, I'm sure it would have sold out anyway, right? This is the Kickstarter problem of ownership creation, because you're thinking you're part of the process when you're not. So what if
That's
they
fair.
remove people from the process but went to the stores and said, we're all going to make more money this way, we're financially secure this way, and spread it out so no store is too worried about it, and then that's the new process. How would you feel as collectors that are more invested in this than me?
That's not the new model. That's the exclusive model that we've railed about here multiple times.
Yeah,
I mean, it is.
But
I mean,
it's a
difference
less
is
exclusive model, right? Let's say they're not going to GameStop and only making one one version for the same price, right? Like the exclusive GameStop figures and all that sort of thing. You can only get it from GameStop. GameStop still sells it from SRP, but good luck getting one. We're gonna make 8,000 of these instead of 12,000. We're gonna give them to every retailer that's willing to pay for them. It's not exclusive. And we'll keep allotments, during the bidding process or whatever. And they announce this all ahead of time. This is hypothetical. I'm just making it up. Like, how could this person solve this problem that's in charge of this Haslab stuff? But I'm gonna walk around to every toy store that I could possibly think of and offer them a certain amount of these, and they can. And if they order more, and we decide, okay, we come up with 10,000 instead of 8,000, but then they make them for 2 years from now. What do you think about that system versus the Kickstarter system? Because it sounds a little bit like if people were removed from the collector's demands of this situation, it might solve some problems.
I like the Haslab system. I think that it's a good way to get products that probably, like, they would have never made the sail barge at just regular retail. That would have never happened.
Didn't they already make a sail barge at retail?
no.
Ever?
That's the thing. Yeah,
no.
it's items that wouldn't, like the Falcon. You're going to sell a Falcon, so Target's going to order them, and even if they end up selling them at
Okay, well, I had a Micro
at a
Machine
loss.
sail barge. I know I did.
Oh yeah,
Okay, that yes, but like they were never going to make a 3 3/4 inch or 6 inch sail barge.
Thing.
Yeah, but I like that model, and I absolutely hate. I know that you said that it wasn't going to be exclusive. I absolutely hate the exclusives model.
Yeah, I hate it too.
But I just think
That's
that in this case,
I don't have to like my hypothetical.
in this case, I just feel like they didn't have they were off on their pulse of the consumer. I think that they came up with products that were, for whatever reason, underwhelming, overpriced, whatever combination of reasons. And all the people who the 5,000 backers who want the Rancor so far might all decide to put in a second order tonight and get that thing funded and surprise me. But these are looking like at this point that they're not going to fund, and I feel like for whatever reason, it seems like they misjudged on everything but the Proton Pack this time around. The Sky Striker has not had anywhere. The Sky Striker just seems to be that people are reluctant to get behind that, which I personally, I'm really on the fence on that. I might put in, I might end this podcast and put in a thing on the Sky Striker, because I do think that looks pretty cool. I think it's overpriced, but I think it looks pretty cool. I do very little 6 inch. I have a 3 3/4 inch Rancor that I'm happy with. I didn't need the Rancor regardless anyways.
The Rancor feels more like a 3 3/4 inch figure to me.
But they have had a lot of bad press. Yeah, they have had a lot of bad press on the Rancor. There has been a lot of anger and frustration on the part of the fans.
But it's anger and frustration. But this is something I don't want to disparage anybody. But it's anger and frustration on the process that is supposed to create a better product. Right? This is the solution for something you said will not exist without this scenario. And so people having vitriol on the idea that this is what we can make for this price doesn't seem to entirely make sense to me.
I think
otherwise you could have it for $250 and get nothing with it, and we can sell it the way that my hypothetical was, right? Like this is what's wrong with Kickstarter a little bit, in my opinion. And one thing that confuses me about the process, and why I'm glad you guys brought it up, because not being invested in this thing and not needing to know that I want 3 things to buy, well, maybe 2, because it sounds like nobody really wants the Striker, because I'm in those collectors' veins, right? I don't collect enough Black Series to care about a Black Series Rancor, and I don't collect Proton Pack style Ghostbuster stuff.
I'm gonna go, guys. It was good talking to you. It was good seeing you guys. Got to go. I'm gonna.
If I wasn't clear earlier, I want the Skyscraper. I just think it's overpriced.
The Ecto 1 is a terrible vehicle. It's poorly designed. Who would choose that car as?
There was also talk too, because when they initially announced like that they're gonna do another Haslab, people were like, oh, do you think it's gonna be a 1/12 scale Ecto 1? And I'm like, if it is, then they've got my money for that too. But that's another discussion for the Plasma series, because they're off scale a bit, and so I need my Spider-Man and my Snake Eyes to fit inside the Ecto 1, and that's another scale issue we can talk about later. But yeah, I mean to Kit's point, like he's even kind of on the fence with the Sky Striker. Sky Striker technically has more backers than the Rancor right now,
by a decent margin.
Yeah. And I think part of that is because of to your point of like, how do you they didn't pulse the people correctly, like they didn't gauge what they wanted. I also think that as opposed to the 3 of us who we can stop and discuss it and reason with things, when you're dealing with the mob that is Star Wars fans,
did you ever see the very good early YouTube video of a stop sign designed by committee?
No.
YouTube that later today and enjoy the stop sign designed by committee, which ends up being pink with no words that say stop on it. Yeah, that kind of thing.
And so you do have the problem of just Star Wars. You have the problem with Star Wars fans, which as a Star Wars fan, I understand we're problematic.
I would just say high maintenance, right? Like Star Wars fandom tends to be entitled's the wrong word, because entitlement, people who are not entitled,
it's pretty good.
It's a diverse group of people, and because they are incredibly diverse, they become high maintenance, and versus entitlement, which implies intent, right? Like intent to be high maintenance, where I don't think that many Star Wars fans intend to be high maintenance.
Okay. If there's a lack of intent, I can understand that.
But so like
the diversion there.
My high maintenance-ness would say that, if that lightsaber had not been the quality of holding it in my hand and deciding that it was high enough quality, I would have complained that it was $200, right? But I'm pointing for the podcast people to the handmade lightsaber, or even Luke's lightsaber, right? When I looked at that, I was like, geez, they want how much for that? But, it's a high quality product. And so
yeah,
I think that there's a diverse group that they have to serve, where they have to sell Luke's lightsaber to a bunch of different people that are interested in Luke's lightsaber, and each one of them are going to be upset about different things, right? How do you make all those people happy? Well, you come up with this system, and you can see how it's going, I think, a little bit. Whereas maybe the desire for a Razor Crest is so high that no one thinks twice about it.
Well, it was till they blew it up.
I told you.
Yeah, that
was my favorite part. They closed the backer thing, and then like 3 days later, the episode came out where they blew it up.
You and I literally said that we said on this podcast it was going to happen. We said it.
Man, it sure felt like a setup.
No one listened, and now they all have a Razor Crest that doesn't exist anymore.
I don't think they have the Razor Crest yet.
I guess, yeah, they don't even have it yet, and it's already exploded. Oh man, how much?
Yeah,
how funny will it be in season 3 when he goes to a junkyard and buys another one, just so they can keep the toy manufacturers happy? He's like, "You got any Razor Crests down there on Ord Mantell?" Oh man.
Because now I'm really curious, because I don't know. That's one thing. That's another thing. That's an additional layer to it as well. Is that at least in the groups that I've been discussing things in, is that you're asking 3 Kickstarters after you just finished the Galactus one, and I think another one just wrapped up too. I'd have to look, but like, so we just finished the Galactus one. People are just now just getting Sentinels. Some of them have still yet to be fulfilled. There's some QC issues with them as well, and a lot of them are kind of like, well, this is a Kickstarter, so there's no like, we're not going to fix, we can't, you know, do a recall, and we can't do this, so you just kind of go with what you've got. And it's after the lack of a Sentinel for some people who are like, I just funded this and I still don't have it yet. And like, I guess that's got to be part of it too, is people are like, oh yeah, I did the Haslab barge and I did a Razor Crest. Now you want me to buy Rancor and I have nothing to show?
It's a Kickstarter, man. I bought some Adirondack chairs that I'm never gonna see on Kickstarter. You know, it's like you at least did it through Hasbro. You know, your money's probably good for something.
But that's the thing, is like that's also the other argument where people are like, well, I mean, yeah, I kind of like the idea of a Rancor, but I still don't have my Razor Crest. So why? And then when you add that on top of the lackluster stretch goals and the, you know, all these, they all add up. That's what it is. I think is that the biggest thing. If we were just looking at one thing and people are like, oh, I'm not trying to, they only have the one thing to focus on. Maybe like, well, at least I'm getting, you know, Malakili now. And really, I think they should be doing Ula and Malakili. They should have included them. And even if they say that these aren't exclusive, they're just exclusives on these cards, at least they're new. It's not just like, wait, I already have the Gamorrean Guard and I already have Salacious Crumb and I already have a Luke that's, I mean, oh, it's a new sculpt for Luke. It's like, but he's going to be re-released as a Mandalorian version because it's the same outfit. So why are you telling me like this is somehow none of these are a buy-in because I already have them? That's another thing. I think their stretch goals were so lackluster that it really, I mean, and because it's the Star Wars people, they got they got the hallway for the vintage collection and they got the carbonite pit, and they had a good design to that for a lot cheaper. They're like, oh, you can make these in a reasonable space. And given it's Black Series and it's going to be huge and it's going to be big and it's going to have a lot of good things to it, where's my value? Like, where's my additional value to the Kickstarter? As opposed to like when you throw it up at retail, people will be like, oh yeah, I like it. Oh, if I can get, but like I like it and I can get it on sale because it's going to be, I got a Target red card, so I'll get 5% off there, and I'll get, you know, the Target sale price because this.
So you're agreeing with me that we should go back to just selling them in stores? Is that what I'm hearing? So.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Not 100%. I'm just saying that there are times where the value of a Kickstarter needs to be expressed right away to make a buyer be like, okay, I'm willing to go in and get this in 2 years. I think that because your model to me sounds just like exclusives, and we've had issues with exclusives before too. Like if it's like, okay, it'll show up at retail and maybe go on sale, or I may never be able to buy it because it never lands at my Target.
Yeah.
It never lands at my GameStop.
I mean, there's definitely a process wherein this is a better system, but I think the process where that it's a better system, so that everyone gets what they want, right? Like Kit has talked about in the past, find a way for me to give you my money, right? That's Kit's number one thing, right? And they've tried that with Pulse. So maybe the answer is this is what we're making. We're not taking questions. If you want it, you want it, and if you don't, you don't.
Yeah, and people are saying, yeah.
If I'm not getting it for 9 months anyway, like if I'm like with the stuff that I just ordered, if I'm not getting it for 9 months anyway, why do you sell it out in 30 seconds on your website? Why, if you sell out in 30 seconds, why don't you just say, okay, we'll make 10,000 more and leave it open? And you know,
I'm sure there's a production reason for that answer.
Right, but tell the factory, hey, make another run of those.
Yeah.
We got lots of orders on that. Make another run. And I mean, it's ridiculous that stuff is exclusive to Pulse and sells out in less than 2 minutes on the website, and then they aren't like, you know what, we should go back and make more 3-packs of the clones because obviously people wanted that, and because like Kit was literally on here at the time of the thing, put it in his cart.
Kit's IP address hit, and we saw it.
it timed out while he was trying to check out because our servers couldn't handle all the stuff. Maybe we should make some more of those.
You know, I hesitated to let this continue for as long as it did. But what's funny about this is that it's not exclusive to Hasbro. I don't know if you guys have realized what's happening here. This problem is now everybody's problem. And so the next time you feel, and this is for everybody listening to this podcast, the next time you feel bad describing how you're upset about a toy, and someone tries to make you feel bad by saying it's just a toy, remind them how hard it was for them to get their PS3 and why they bought it from some scrub who sold it to them for twice as much on eBay. This is the exact same thing that is a problem with PS3s and PS5s and GPUs and not Xboxes, because nobody wants those. And
I want one.
I mean, go buy one. They're in stock right now.
I don't have the money.
I see, because you just bought a Rancor for $350.
I didn't buy a Rancor. I bought a Proton pack like a gentleman.
Like,
but
did you say like a gentleman?
Yeah. But also on that note too, I've also advocated for the Kickstarter format for other products that have come out. Like I believe we've talked about it a little bit, that they announced they're doing a turtle van from Super 7 for their Ultimates line, and it's a good sized turtle van, but it's also more expensive than the Sky Striker. It's, I believe, $450, so it's in the range. Actually, I guess is it $450?
I think it's $350, isn't it?
I have to go big bad because it's been a while since I've looked at it. Is it $350?
I thought so. I don't know.
But so the turtle van is, or I think it's called the party wagon. It's a lot, and it's like there's no sounds, there's no lights, and it's cool, but it's like, it's also, to me, the party wagon is $500.
Okay, I was way off.
So it's more expensive than the other products we've talked about today, and it is inferior in that there's no lights, there's no sounds, there's no like electronics, there's nothing that gives you like, oh, this is my definitive thing. Like, it's different. I understand that it's different when DC Direct makes a Batmobile as part of their animated toy line, because they know they're going to be going to certain retailers. They also know that they have a certain amount of funding to begin with. But when I'm looking at this party wagon that's $500, or the Thunder Tank that's $400, I feel if they would have gone the Kickstarter route, they could have done a better job of funding it initially to offset the cost to get it in a better range and get us a better product. So there's times where I think that the Kickstarter models should be looked at that aren't, because they don't want to go down the path of maybe a struggle that a Kickstarter might have. But I do see the value in that model that, okay, if we can front load that money into our development costs, we can then make this product better than it would have been without it. I mean, did either of you pick up the animated Batman vehicles?
No.
Kit? Okay.
But I think this same story that you're writing right now is true of other industries. And I just was reading about trying to do this model with video games. And what you end up with is a bunch of people who have no take-home pay, because you think what you've accomplished in Kickstarter is all these stretch goals that have given you so much extra, but what you've ended up promising ends up eating your budget. You know, these t-shirts and all these other things, you end up eating your budget so deeply that that games that then don't get beyond their Kickstarter in terms of sales short the people involved. So yes, you might be able to take the turtle van and sell it for $425 instead of $500. If you can know how many you're going to sell it for and exactly how much it's going to cost, you can save the end consumer $75. And maybe you can then, if it sells 10,000 of them, well, we might have about 10% run over. So we could put a whole camera setup for April in the van or something like that. And then you could do this and that and the other thing, and people start to feel like they're getting more value, but the company at the end of the day walks away with almost nothing extra from the situation, versus if they sell it at 500, eventually they make 25% profit on the thing, and they're able to make another thing that they can sell for 500 and everybody gets take home pay. So that idea is customer beneficial, but may not be company beneficial even if it feels like it would be to you.
That's fair. And I don't know the inner workings on that corporate level of how it works.
I can't know.
Yeah.
I can't know either.
Yeah.
Right? But having read what Kickstarter has done to companies like Molasses Flood and the people that are not wildly successful. It's just a company that made Flame in the Flood.
Is it a game?
Yeah, it's a game, and it's in the Press Reset book by Jason Schreier, who went through a bunch of video game company failures and said what was the cause of this. And one of them was here's how the Kickstarter model works. And it's great if you're the guy that made Castlevania and you say, I want to make Castlevania but a different name, and you come out with Bloodstained, and then you get everybody coming out of the woodwork, like Xbox and Switch and all these people being like, hey, we saw that you sold 1.5 million copies of this ahead of time. You want some extra money to put it on our that works great for a certain quality of thing.
Yeah.
And
then you have Mighty Number 9.
But that's the success that everybody sees with the Kickstarter model. And I think Hasbro may not be the Goliath.
Can you clarify by they're not the Goliath
I think that you're right that they use this type of situation to pad the number sheet, but behind the scenes they may be sweating bullets about whether or not the product will actually make any money.
I guess. I don't know. I guess as
every figure, even though you don't need that Luke figure, even though you don't need that Gamorrean Guard figure, even though you don't want that Malakili, the Malakili doesn't come with packaging because they could save 85 cents on the packaging, and maybe when they sell 10,000 of these, they can make that amount of money. Right? That's a possibility when it comes to this type of funding, especially if you're looking at a product cycle that takes 3 years.
Mm-hmm. My guess would be that Hasbro, as a gigantic company, has the resources and the accountants to be able to figure out at a much better rate, like here's the break even on a Kickstarter type program.
Sure.
On this. Now, with that being said, one thing I was going to say earlier that leads right into this is they could very well end up losing a lot of money on this model because of the unique dynamics of what is going on right now. Because when they priced this thing, in the summer or whatever, that might have been before there was 25% inflation across the board. And if this thing funds, they very well may end up, because of the higher cost of all of the resources, of the labor, of the shipping, they very well may end up losing money when the bill comes due in March of 2023.
Just getting it off the boat in 2 years might cost them an extra 10% because it comes from X country that it costs extra to get it out of there because of inflation.
Yeah, but I mean that's sort of a unique thing that's to this particular situation, and may end up never happening. But I think that probably Hasbro is so used to being able to, just from putting out products in general, knowing like this is going to be the price point. At that price point, we have to sell this many to be able to make a profit. I think that they would probably be way better at this than a small video game company.
But some of that presupposes incompetence.
Sort of thing.
I mean, what you're saying a little bit is that these inexperienced companies are somewhat incompetent at figuring out what their costs are going to be. That's true and untrue.
I mean, not necessarily incompetence, but also maybe ignorance. They just don't have the experience or knowledge. So it's not necessarily inferring like incompetent. I guess when I hear incompetence, it infers to our discussion earlier. It infers a certain amount of unwillingness to learn more, and just whereas I think that and also with game models, with gaming, you have a different development times, things like that. But to that same degree is like they are smaller companies that don't have the 15 experienced accountants that Hasbro has, that to go to look at the books and be like, oh, X, Y, and Z. And then this is, I mean, a lot of what you're saying is definitely fair for the Super 7 products because they don't have the same resources that Hasbro has. And that was what I was saying. Like, I understand, but I wish they could do something, but they don't have, Super 7 doesn't have the same amount of resources Hasbro has. Whereas Hasbro, they have more than enough. I'm not going to say like they're hurting.
No,
they are.
They're not, but they also, as a large corporation like they are, I'm sure, play a lot of numbers games with things that you and I think make tons of money that might not.
Yeah, I mean they have winner product and loser product, just like any other. Like their Overwatch line did, like that thing dropped, like that did not stay strong. That dropped off the face of the earth. I think it's called Overwatch Ultimates. I'm trying to remember. But the Overwatch toy line did not do well. So yeah, they definitely have their wins and losses. But it's also a company that has, a CEO that's going home with a golden parachute if something fails. And so I have no care whatsoever about the executives at Hasbro. Like
who cares about executives? Forget that. Companies are not your
But that's
friend.
the thing, is that they're gonna.
I don't care anything about what they have to deal with. I mean, they're obviously paid more than enough to deal with the situation. Yeah. I'm not saying you should feel bad for Hasbro. I'm just saying the inner workings behind how to sell things, it's just should not create entitlement is all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, and that's why I was saying in the beginning is that I feel bad for the people who are on the videos trying to pitch the toys. Like that guy's like, there's memes. It's just like, it's out there. There's like, oh, fire him, get him. Like this dude's doing the best he can, like, and just trying to get you toys. And his hands are like tied. This hand's tied by Hasbro Corporate. This hand's tied by Lucasfilm, because they don't want to make. I mean, I think it would be hard for Lucas to be, since they've already said we don't want to make a Slave Leia figure anymore. I think it would be hard for them to say, like, let's make an Ula figure, and people be like, no, we're not going to make an Ula figure because essentially she's an exotic dancer, and we don't want to put that toy out. Meanwhile, the fandom out there wants that toy, and it's like, where's that argument? How, and as a guy who has to go on there and shout at the masses tied down by NDAs to say, like, I can't even address it. I can't even say, like, oh yeah, we see your comments, but we have to, like, they can't even say, like, we see your comments, but we're not allowed to by Lucas to say this. Like, they can't. Like, there's so much. So that's where I feel bad for those guys.
So what we boiled this argument down to here, I think, is this, and then we need to talk about visions. Lucasfilm needs to go on the Hasbro stream and give everybody a list of things they're never going to get.
Oh yeah.
And then Hasbro can switch over to funding these up front with a Kickstarter model and just paste the screenshot of what Lucasfilm said every single time somebody posts on Discord, and then everyone will be happy.
Can we get Ewan McGregor to do that?
Yes.
Can he start the segment with "Hello there"?
Hello there.
Here is a list that I will read of the things that you will never get.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's the end of it. I think that we talked that one to death, and there's some good ideas in there, and a lot of us talking about what we wish and don't know about. So.
Yeah.
I am sorry for people that are frustrated by this. I'm frustrated by trying to get Michael from the main pod a GPU, right? And like, it's not the same thing, but the feeling of, it's not helplessness. Helplessness is the wrong word, because it's a consumer product, so you're not helpless because you can just not buy it. But the frustration of desire versus availability that Kit felt with the 3-pack is not a feeling that you should feel when it comes to consumer products. And that can be very frustrating for everyone, including the people that make them and try to sell them and can't do anything about their availability. I'm sure there are people at Sony who, unlike NVIDIA, have not lowered their production of cards in search of profit, that are tearing their hair out trying to get PS5s to people, right? Because every minute that they're not selling a PS5 is every minute they're not selling games that they've paid to get on their console. So,
right.
Damn Spider-Man, you sons of bitches. And he's exclusive to the Marvel Avengers game too. It's just ridiculous. I hate you, Sony.
That frustration I feel for consumers and producers mostly, unlike NVIDIA, like, what a bunch of posers. And I think that's, unless you disagree with that sentiment, what maybe we all feel here. Yeah. you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.